So you had a good life, huh? I hope so. I hope we all have good lives.
Back in the day, they had no AC.
That's an upgrade. The camera does not do it justice on how beautiful it is out here today.
You are worthy.
Thank you. I think you're as worthy as well. Is that the best charter boat captain right there? The one that's trending? I see memes up there like crazy showing like his boat for sale, not able to make monthly payments anymore. His business is like closed permanently. I saw that and it's like, if I was on my boat and that guy got on my boat, things would have gone down a bit differently. Come on, Bug, get away.
Can you see me?
I see people out here. Which one are you? Ahoy! See, that sheriff's boat right there would be like perfect to have.
Big.
Yeah, big. That's like the perfect boat size right there. It really is. Do some fishing, do some crabbing off of that stuff. You and a couple people. That's nice. Hey, look at that. Some fish are jumping.
He'll get you.
Yeah, he'll get you. Sheriffs will do that if you do something wrong. Look, they're dog friendly out here too. I love that.
Anarchy.
Anarchy, huh? I would think so here at the plantation.
Matthew.
Matthew. Turn you down a little bit so we don't interfere with their speaking.
Okay, yeah. I remember we did a tour with you guys recently. I guess
There's a place to go, Linda.
yeah.
That's what Mary and I were talking about on the way up, some of the places that we
Yeah,
could
she
go.
said there's a place in Palm Coast that's really
Oh,
interesting.
Washington Oaks.
Yes.
Washington
Beautiful.
Oaks is great.
Yeah, the
That's one of
gardens.
the best part.
Yep.
That's my
Yep.
favorite park.
Yeah. Easy walking. I mean, it's all, it's flat, the paths are nice.
It is.
Decent parking.
I like to go camping and Gamble Rogers down.
All the important things.
Yeah,
out
that's
there.
good. Welcome everybody to Kingsley Plantation.
Inferno.
My name is Luke. I've been here for about 6 years now. So Kingsley Plantation is part of a larger national park. It's in the Plum Ecological and Historic Preserve. 75% of it is salt marsh. We protect these floodlands, these nurseries, these,
William.
water filters that really help benefit Jacksonville as a whole. But within the preserve, we have two interpretive sites. We have Fort Caroline National Memorial on the south side of the river, which talks about the French coming here actually before St. Augustine was even founded. The French were here. And then we also have Kingsley Plantation, which is where we're at today. So we'll talk about why we're a national park here in just a minute, but has anybody been to a plantation before?
You did, yeah.
So here? Yeah?
Long time here.
One in Georgia.
Georgia?
Mhm.
Was it the one outside Savannah?
Yes.
Wormslow?
Yeah, outside of Savannah.
Yep.
Yeah, there's one on 95 that I was on years and years
Mhm.
ago.
Hopeful, Woeful, or something.
Yeah,
such
I
a
haven't
name.
been up that way.
Myrtle Beach, too.
Yeah, so there's a whole bunch, right?
Yeah.
So, when you visit those plantations, or you think of how plantations have been portrayed in media, like Gone with the Wind, what's the typical narrative that we see?
Evil slave owner,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
or
Mm-hmm. What else?
Like the aristocrats, slave,
Okay, yeah.
cheap labor.
Yeah, so aristocrats, right? A little bit more money. What else? What about the house? Think about the house.
the big house,
Big
Yeah.
houses.
fancy.
Yeah, it's always fancy, all that gaudy, that glamour, right?
Mm-hmm.
It always gets you with like the Live Oak Road, that you're driving. We got Palmetto Avenue here,
We got the long skirts. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a beautiful drive-in.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I will say too, before on that note, you guys will have to take that same road out because there is a tree down on the other road, just so you guys know.
No, I can't remember that, yeah.
So, but yeah, so we always get this this gaudiness, this glamour, more romanticized, right? Again, like Gone with the Wind, you get this love story. That's the focus. The focus is always, always, always on the house. But I can tell you, with this house here, it was largely unoccupied. 9 months out of the year, there's nobody here. Kingsley was only here to check on operations before he moves to the next plantation. He owned 10 plantations here around Jacksonville.
Wow.
And when, as historians,
You're being followed.
we focus on this, again, empty house, we lose a lot of information about what's really, really happening here on these plantations. So when we begin to shift our focus away from the house down towards the cabins, we get where those homes are over-occupied really every day of the year. We get a more balanced understanding. We start breaking through some of the mythologies that have been sold, right? Even by This building here, this was a hotel back in the 1930s.
Really?
Yeah, they were crafting narratives about the plantation to get people here because these parks have to stay in business, right? And many of your plantation sites today continue these narratives because they sell, right? But yeah, so Kingsley, though, we have our own myths that we're going to talk a little bit about, but we also have a role in changing these myths. But also we can see how, you know, the more that we break through and really look at the lived realities of these plantation sites, how much they really have impacted us today in ways we may not typically think of. So before we start, just a heads up for you guys too, about a 20-minute talk. We're going to head to the kitchen house and then head over to the garden. Does anybody have any questions for me? No? Okay. I will say, as we walk around, watch out for the armadillos. They've been digging.
He's got a cool ass hat.
My yard is so dug out.
Speaking of that, I ordered me a new hat, a straw hat, so it should be here in a few days. It's one of those twister styles. You ever seen those?
But you can see them right here. Yeah, they're real bad.
Oh, mine are smaller than that. Those are moles. Those are moles.
It's a mole in the CIA right there.
I no longer have moles. Oh, she digs them up.
Does she?
Yeah.
I have 3 dogs and I have moles. 3 dogs and 4 chickens. Oh, that's right. Well, at least you have eggs with all your chickens. People don't realize that.
Right, so we got behind you guys here, this is the kitchen house. But for a long time, when this was a state park, this was known as Ma'am Anna House or Princess Anna House. So Anna Kingsley was the wife of Zephaniah. She was originally enslaved, 13 years old, from Senegal. And the narrative that was told here for such a long time, again, was that Anna Kingsley was a princess over in Africa before she was enslaved. And Zephaniah Kingsley bought her. He fell in love with her. She was the most beautiful woman that he had ever seen. He brought her here. He freed her because he was so generous as a slave owner, and had a loving family. 4 kids that were raised right here in this room, and Anna lived in the opposite room. And they had a happy life together. Very convenient history. The reality itself, again, the reality is a little bit different, right? When we start to really ask questions and look at West African society in the late 1700s, as France leaves West Africa, we see a real changing society. We see, as France leaves, Islam moves in. Senegal, where Anna was from, was kind of one of these last holdouts. And Anna wasn't a princess at all. She was an upper class woman. Her family was. And kind of in like that political turmoil, she's enslaved, or really almost as a political prisoner. They're getting rid of any traditional West African support so that Islam can move in full-fledged. And Anna is wrapped up in all of this. 13-year-old girl, she is enslaved, brought out to Havana, where Zephaniah Kingsley purchases her.
How old was he?
41.
He was 41. I
And
knew
by
he
the
was
time-
much older than she.
Yep, and by the time they got back to St. Augustine, she was already pregnant with their first kid.
Wow.
As was Zephaniah's other wife, Untitled Chapter. So he had 4 wives, who were all 13, 14, 15 years old whenever he married them. He had 10 kids between all of them that he recognized, right? But this isn't this love story, right? Is there really a love story between a 40-year-old and a 13-year-old?
Sounds like an old person.
No.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
There is, again, these aren't really sanitized stories that we're dealing with here. but they were sold as such because they're complicated. And then Anna becomes a slave owner herself. How do you talk about a black woman who was once enslaved, now owning other people, right? So very complicated narratives. Again, and the research wasn't there. Even the state park. In the parlor room of the kitchen house, if you go in there, you will see leg stocks. Zephaniah Kingsley, his original career, his first career was a slave trader. Those leg stocks were found in the attic or the second floor of the barn, and were later moved to the basement of the house. It would have been a form of punishment. Very likely leg stocks from the slaving ship that were repurposed here as a form of punishment. But for the State Park Service back in the 1950s and 60s, that was not a pair of leg stocks, that was a wine rack that was used by Zephaniah. So you get this real big avoidance of these difficult topics. But again, Park Service too, National Park Service, we were telling some of these stories because we just didn't know. A lot of these narratives really began to change here at Kingsley Plantation. This is why we are a national park, right? So 1968, nearly 60 years ago, we get a archaeologist from UF down in Central Florida. He comes out here and he goes, well, we know so much about the owner and Zephaniah. What about all the cabins? You know, he is really the first person to ask questions about how enslaved people lived and how they adapted and survived and really navigated this system of Spanish slavery. It's not U.S. slavery. U.S. slavery and Spanish slavery are completely different systems. Spain used their system of slavery really to fight back against the United States economically, right? And we see this plantation, the people here kind of respond to that system. And so, his name was Charles Fairbanks. He's asking these questions. He has really created the field of enslaved studies. So any other plantation that you go to, and they talk about enslaved clothing, enslaved food, enslaved names, anything like that can be tied right back here to these questions in 1968, right? This is why we're a national park site, right? The birthplace of enslaved archaeology, really the birthplace of balancing out these narratives, you know? So when he's here, he finds a couple different things. He's looking for something called Africanisms, essentially connections between these plantation site experiences and West African societies. So we find a couple things. One of the first things that we find, I just want to point two things out, is, yeah, the bees are out, this part of a lock. And so you can see it's about a ½ inch tall. This would have just been like a keyhole cover, right? So that nobody could peer through the keyhole. So we find this on the cabins, right? Not only do we find evidence of locks on one cabin, every cabin that we've excavated so far, we find evidence of locks. And these would have been owned by the enslaved people. So far, this is the only plantation here in the United States where we see evidence of locks on enslaved cabins. And this, again, is a response to the Spanish system of slavery, where enslaved people had certain rights, right? Here in Spanish Florida, enslaved people could sue their owner, right? They could earn money. They could have a legally recognized marriage, right? If they petition to Spain and they're married in a Catholic ceremony, well, now they have to be sold as a family unit, right? They can't be sold apart. They could also self-manumit, right? Purchase their freedom, right? And they could own property. So we see here at this plantation enslaved people. They owned weapons, right? Zephaniah has an ad out in the paper. He's looking for somebody with military experience to really train his enslaved people as a militia to protect this island. Early 1800s, we have the Seminole Wars going on out here, right? But we see the enslaved people able to protect their valuables whenever they're out down in the fields, whenever they are traveling with Zephaniah to other plantations, maybe sometimes their labor being rented out to another plantation. even to protect their family at home at night. They can lock the doors, and we do the same thing today, right? We lock our cars whenever we leave them, keep our valuables safe. But in locking
Attached.
their home, they're also able to create a private space within that they could be themselves. So within these homes, we also see evidence of these Africanisms, right? These connections between West Africa and today. And we see it through, and for this example, this chicken here. So when they excavated this chicken, they had no idea what it was. They figured, well, they knew it wasn't food. If it was food, you know, there'd be no head for one thing. Bones would be all strewn about, and they would have found this near the chimney. We don't see that at all. We see it in the corner of a cabin. And when you look at archaeological photos in situ or still in the ground, we see always an arrow just to orient the archaeologist. That arrow is always pointing north. Well, this chicken is aligned with north. And as they continue to excavate, they find other artifacts. They find pieces of iron. They find amber beads, all situated with this chicken. And so now they're putting the puzzle together, and they're realizing, you know, maybe this isn't food, maybe this isn't even a pet, maybe this is something more. So the archaeologists go back to West Africa. They begin to speak with some of the religious leaders over there, and they immediately identify this as a charm placed in the home. This is a chicken sacrifice that was intended to keep out bad spirits, to keep those inside safe, keep them healthy. And we find evidence of the similar chicken sacrifices throughout the Caribbean as well, in Santeria, in Voodoo, and here in Southeast enslaved culture as well. But not only are you getting your spiritual protection of the home, you're also getting your physical protection, right? But now you're getting that continuation of West African beliefs here at this plantation. So again, the more and more that we find, I will say enslaved studies as a whole is kind of like a puzzle with a lot of missing pieces. Say you got a 100-piece puzzle, we're only getting maybe 5 or 6 pieces to tell the story. It's tough. Every little piece helps us out a little bit more. We do a lot of cross-referencing with other plantation archaeology to learn about how these plantations really operated, how enslaved people lived. Again, breaking through some of these silenced stories that have been told for a very long time. But I just wanted to touch a little bit on the archaeology. We have brochures that go into it a little bit more. We have the archaeological reports that you can see on our website. We got about 10 years of them that they were out here.
Still doing them?
Mm-hmm. This is still an active archaeological site. So right now we have 2 projects going on. In the basement of the house, we are looking to map out which each area would have been used for. And we're also looking for the cemetery, the owner's cemetery. We don't know how far back that could go. That could predate this plantation, changing the entire story of this house, but we'll see. But yeah, so we have brochures, and we got some waysides, so panels like that down at the cabins that talk a little bit more about that.
How far are the cabins from here?
It's all those white buildings.
You saw them coming in.
I went coming this way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so any questions for me? I know we kind of covered a little bit more than I typically do, but.
Is there still a Kingsley family?
Oh yeah, so that's one of the projects of the park. We do genealogy, so we track the descendants for everybody who has lived on this plantation from 1798, owner and enslaved, 1798 to 1945.
Oh.
So we know those cabins were still being lived in 1945. This house was still being lived in 1945. People were still working here up until 1940.
Wow.
Where's the fire at?
1955. Yeah.
Did they always have it since then?
Yeah, so it's been a park ever since.
45, I went to school.
1955 became a state
End
park.
of the war.
1988, it was Timucuan Preserve was created, and Kingsley Plantation was transferred over to federal management.
Right.
Pam's grandfather was a caretaker here.
Who?
Pam,
Oh, yeah,
Alston.
Pam Moore?
yeah, Pam Moore. Her grandfather was a caretaker, and she said they would come and play
Yeah.
and hang out
No, I
here.
remember a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
No, I'm 85, so I know.
No, it's
history.
it's
When
great.
he says this stuff.
So we're gonna make one more stop. We're gonna head on over to the garden again. As we walk, watch out for the fire ants, watch out for the armadillo holes. Our gopher tortoise holes too. We try to block off.
Yeah, beware the goats before the cold.
So you were born in 55.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the year my father died. That's the year I met Martin. I was 15.
It is amazing to be on a tour and you have people that have living history they can add to it and relate to it. Just makes it that much better. But in my opinion, anybody who's like 80 and above, they should have some kind of scripts with them. It's like people in there going to they can start documenting their point of view of what their life was like and their history and stuff. Imagine how much that would add into, like, here's an interpretation here, you know, oh, I was there when this happened and this is what I saw, those witness accounts. That would be like the best to add on to stuff.
So this here is our interpretive garden. So we grow the cash crops that they grew back then. We grow them the same way they would have back then. So we have a couple different varieties that were historically grown and planting methods that were debated in the 1820s and 30s. We're testing them out right now, see which one works the best. Intersecting your cotton rows are these, they look like graves, but they're ditches that you would have filled up with water. You got to get that taproot growing real quick, so we try and keep those filled. We've got to fill them up today. What's really interesting about Sea Island cotton is that it needs salt to grow.
This is cotton.
So this is cotton. So this variety of cotton too will get about 7 feet tall. It's the best cotton in the world. So we got cotton here. We also have indigo, so that tall twig. We're planting some more indigo. That's how you get your blue dye back then. In the back, we had it about 20 feet tall. We just replanted it for February. Sugarcane as well. Many plantations also had backup crops, just in case your main crop failed, you can still make money. We also grow seasonally some of the food crops that they had back then. So we got some potatoes here, tomatoes, borage, some winter crops are still there that are starting to bolt. New to the garden are these two, is this corner here. We have in front of us right here all these herbs. So we can talk about medicinal history for enslaved people that they would have used for physical and spiritual ailments. And then on the opposite side, we're getting a pollinator garden. And then the newest thing is that box there, which is a bee box, so we can get some bees out here. So we will see what happens, but we're trying.
What is that one right there?
So this is chicory.
Because I pull it out of my yard all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So we have that. That's our weeds at home.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So pregnant woman will get. That's how it's like the caffeine-free coffee. You know, that's what they say. So yeah. So does anybody here garden? Try to garden. Yeah. It's a lot of work. It's a lot
And
of
my
work.
lettuce does that a lot too.
Yeah.
My
so,
grandmother's garden was a little bigger than this.
Do the with the rags on there help keep the birds out?
That's dear.
So we're doing that just so we can kind of guide visitors so they don't walk through and close, like especially kids, they don't clothesline themselves,
okay,
you know.
Okay, I was wondering.
But we'll get into that in a second, actually. But so a couple people here garden. Who here eats, right? We all eat.
Yeah, I
So
know.
has anybody here ever had Hoppin' John or beans and rice?
Yeah, beans are nice.
Yep, beans and rice. Collard greens
Mm-hmm.
or sweet potato pie.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Now
Or
you make me
sweet
hungry.
tea. Yeah, sweet tea or lemonade, right?
Yeah.
Or boiled peanuts,
Mm-hmm.
right? What kind of food is this? What do we call this type of food?
Soul food.
Soul food.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it right here on these plantations is where these recipes originated. You know, cornbread, mac and cheese, right?
Mhm.
Especially right there in that kitchen. We were getting enslaved cooks bringing over with them knowledge of African recipes, but
Mm-hmm.
here in the Southeast United States, they got different ingredients, right? So they got oranges, for example, right? So you're getting more citrus. They're modifying their recipes based on what's available. Well then, especially in that kitchen, they're serving European palates and they're using European cooking techniques. So they're modifying these recipes even further. So now we're getting this merging of European, African, and Native American cuisines to the point where we get these recipes that we have today, right? We get the collard greens, we get the Hoppin' John, we get cornbread and mac and cheese. Food that isn't just known as soul food, but is now known today as just kind of southern food. This is what you eat when you come down south. And they all have their roots on these plantation experiences. But the more that we ask questions about kind of southern culture today, the more we realize, you know, it's not just food. You know, it's language, it's fashion, it's music, dance. A lot of the things that we do today without question date back to these histories. Even with gardening. So there's some of the things that we do in our garden that are just second nature to us, but have their roots in plantation experiences. So I got those two bird houses hanging up.
Swan boards.
Yeah.
Why do we want birds in our garden?
Eat the pest.
Yeah, they eat the bugs.
When they poop, it's like fertilizer.
And they poop, they fertilize, right? Absolutely. So they're great to have in the garden, but these birdhouse gourds especially were right out of the enslaved world belief system, right? So West African people believed that by having your birdhouses up, they could attract the indigo bunting specifically. So for West African people, blue was a very spiritual color. It represented water. Water was a barrier that certain spirits, evil spirits, could not cross. And so if you have a bluebird in your garden, it's going to scare away some of these evil spirits. So, but again, it's very practical. It's eating the bugs and it's keeping the plants fertilized, right? In our garden as well, we also have a lot of newspaper, which is all buried right now. But we got a little bit here. All right, we got the Sunday comics from a little while ago. What does newspaper do in your garden?
Helps keep moisture.
Yeah, insulates it, keeps that moisture in, right? It's mulch. Keep those weeds at bay as well. Again, very practical. But this is also something that comes out of West African belief systems. So they believed here in the Southeast United States, they began to modify their beliefs. Once the owner is done with the newspaper, or he's done with the Sears magazine, or Sears catalog, or whatever he's reading, rather than throw it out, they would repurpose these papers. And so their belief evolved so that these evil spirits were not just afraid of blue, but they were also very easily distracted.
Oh.
So if they're coming to your garden to attack your crops, well, if they see the paper, they're going to have to read every word on every page, right? Before they can move on to your crops. So it's another line of defense. But again, very, very practical. Keeps that moisture in, keeps those weeds at bay. We also are getting, I don't have it yet, but glass bottles, glass shards. Why have glass in your garden? What does that do?
Same thing, keep out people. They step on it.
Yeah, keeps out people. Keeps out animals too, right? So at nighttime, these shards of glass are going to reflect that moonlight. And it's going to scare those raccoons and armadillos and possums and the peacocks who eat everything out here. Was that?
Does that really work?
Yeah.
No, I get hardly anything from my garden because of all the animals.
Yeah. So we we're getting them out here, but from the other historic gardens that I've spoken to here around town, here around the South, they use the glass, and it has helped them keep the wild animals at bay.
That's interesting.
And the birds don't eat anything.
No. But the big concern out here is this peacocks.
Is that
and
what we
deer.
keep hearing?
Yes. Yeah. So, and you'll probably see them here too.
Yeah, I saw 3 up front when we drove in.
They were just out here not too long ago. They were in the garden actually. But glass, right? So very practical. It keeps these animals at bay from attacking your garden at night. But again, also very spiritual. Enslaved people believed, you know, at night, if these shards of glass reflect light, that means a spirit had been captured in this glass. Sometimes too, you'll get like the glass bottles that hang. Whenever the wind blows past those glass bottles, again, it's going to scare away the animals. But enslaved people believe that that meant there's a spirit that was captured and he's trying to escape. But they're caught in this glass, and in daytime when the sun comes up, it's going to cook those spirits away and keep your garden protected. Again, these are all things that we can utilize in our garden, but have roots right here on these plantation experiences. So the more that we ask these questions about you know, about this history, we can learn a little bit more about Southern culture, you know, in ways that we may not have expected. So, yeah.
That's actually some good information.